Hi, this is Lethea from Farmview Creators. Today we are going to try to wet distress this very cute insert for the chunky farmhouse frame. So I'm going to put all my letters on my sticky board. This is a well-loved sticky board, as you will see. So I have to move some of my letters around because they just did not want to stick. And then I'm going to go ahead and stain the backboard with Dyke brown. This is a semi-gel antiquing glaze. I'm going to let that dry while I put Buttercream from Couture on my letters. I'm using a sponge dauber for this because it helps the letters not get so goopy with the paint. I am kind of tapping off every once in a while because I don't want it to be too thick, especially on this first layer. Just making sure I do have coverage on all of the letters. I love the combination of fonts on this kit. It's just so beautiful, and I'm y'all know I love anything interchangeable, so this is right up my alley. So after this sticky board will be retired, but it got the job done this one last time. On that second layer, I did go in with a heavier coat. That's how I normally do it. And since my stain is dry, I'm going to go in with Chalkstyle paint from Couture in the color Autumn Sage, and I'm just going to give one coat of this all over that backboard. Make sure that I don't have any gooping up on the sides and edges. And then I am going to let this dry almost all the way, but not quite. While I'm waiting, I am going to go ahead and clean out those score lines for the faux shiplap. Doing this while the paint is still wet just really helps those lines come through. I'm using my Cricut weeding tool for that. It works very well. You can also use a straight pen. Now, it's kind of dry, but honestly, in hindsight, I should have let it dry a little bit more before going in and trying to wet distress it. But when you're wet distressing, you want to let your paint dry almost all the way, then go in with a damp cloth or paper towel or shop towel. You could even use a baby wipe, and you're just rubbing away some of the paint to get down to the layer underneath. So I wanted some of that stain to show through. So I wiped it away, and then I finished drying it because I want it to be very nicely dry before I go in with my Couture acrylic mineral paint and put a layer of that on top of my distressed Autumn Sage. The acrylic mineral paint has a built-in top coat and has a little bit more of a fuller coverage than the Chalkstyle paint, but the Chalkstyle will dry more quickly and a lot of times is better if you are going to distress it, especially with sanding, because it does come off easier. So I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to distress my letters with that same Dyke brown antiquing glaze. And I'm using the brush that has the little fan and then wiping it back with my fingers. And I'm going to go ahead and go in with my dead flat. All of this while I'm waiting for that basil to get mostly dry and get all those letters sealed with my top coat. I love the dead flat because it takes out all the shine. I'm going to wrap up my brushes because I want to be able to use them later, and I don't want them to get crusty. So I am going to kind of dry that a little bit more because I was getting impatient. And then I'm going to go in and start wiping it away with my damp paper towel. It wasn't coming up quite as much as I wanted, so I did dust it with my water sprayer a couple of times, and that did the trick. So just going in several directions, trying to get all the way down to the brown in some of the areas, and then just bring out the autumn sage in others. And I just kept wiping until I was happy with it. And if I had wiped too much, I could always go back in and add another layer of the paints on top and then start it again. But I love how it turned out. So now I'm going to go in just a little bit with that same Van Dyke brown and just kind of buff it in to the places where the wood is showing through, because I did kind of rub the stain away a little bit. But it's okay. It's all fixable. Again, when I was happy with it, I stopped. And then I'm going to give that a really good dry before I go in with my dead flat and give that a good coverage. It doesn't take much. And you can actually see the shine going away as I dried that one. So there's my wet distressed background. We're going to add those letters in. It's super easy to add these tiny little letters. It probably was the most tedious part of the whole project, but the score lines are still visible through all those layers of paint and stain. So maybe not the whole letter, but you can see parts of the letters enough to get them lined up really well. And that really helps me because I cannot get anything straight by myself. I'm just telling you the truth. So I'm going to go in with my art glitter glue and I'm going to get that adhered down. I'm going at super speed here. I love the art glitter glue because it does not make my fingers sticky, which is very important when you're working with these tiny letters. It also dries clear. And it gives you a little wiggle room. So, you'll see me lift up the board and kind of slide those letters around, trying to make sure that I have them right in the scored lines. And it's good that you can still wiggle it, because I need to wiggle and adjust a lot. But I really do love how this project turned out. I'm really digging the wet distressing because it's not near as messy as sanding to distress, which to me, I usually sand too much and I make a big mess, and then you have to get all the dust up before you can do anything else, and it's just a pain. But there's that background. I love how it turned out. So let's put it in our frame. I'm going to pop out the insert I had and pop in this new insert. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. And there you can see it in the chunky farmhouse frame that is sold separately. And there it is from a distance in the sunshine. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, be sure to